So who is Russia's top military commander in Ukraine? You would think that would be a simple question to answer, but U.S. defense officials have been unable to identify a commander. That could explain the command and control problems that Russian troops have had so far. According to the Pentagon, Russia has failed to achieve most of its military objectives in this country. CNN's Katie Bo-Lillis live in Washington with her reporting on this. Katie Bo, what have you learned?
Yeah, John, so multiple U.S. officials, I should say multiple sources familiar with the matter, not all of them U.S. officials, have told us that the United States has been unable to determine exactly who the top senior leader, the top military leader on the ground leading Russian troops in Ukraine is, the kind of theater-wide commander that the United States would anticipate that Russia or any professional military would put into place to run its war in a coherent fashion. Now, the Russian Ministry of Defense has declined to respond to a request for comment from CNN, but our sources tell us that different Russian units from different military districts that are operating in offensives in different parts of Ukraine appear to be acting almost independently of one another. They are competing for resources rather than coordinating the way the United States might expect if they were under a single leader with a single coherent vision for the campaign. And John, this is all happening as sources also tell us that the Russians are having a tremendous difficulty with secure communications. Their troops and commanders on the ground are communicating at times on commercial cell phones and other insecure lines that the Ukrainians are able to intercept and then use to develop their own targets for counterstrikes against the Russian forces. And in some instances, according to a source familiar with the intelligence, Russian troops are actually being cut off from their commanders, their senior commanders that are further behind them. So a unit might go forward out on a mission, something might go wrong, and then they can't radio home for further instructions. So really, when it comes to what the military calls command and control, the Russians have some pretty big problems.
It really does burst the bubble of this concept of this modernized, high-tech military that the Russians were thought to have had. Katie Bo-Lillis, terrific reporting. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's bring in CNN military analyst and retired Army Major General James Spider Marks to talk more about this. So they don't know who is in charge. If there is someone in charge overall, they don't know. Is that odd?
It's extremely odd, but when you look at the map, you kind of get a sense of it. What we're talking about is a thing called command and control. So who's in charge? And what you see here is essentially three separate fights that are going on. Now, that's no big deal other than they're extremely stretched. Their resources are spread very, very thin. The Ukrainians have some great success here. They've reclaimed that city. So when you look at that, you go, okay, well, I've got these three different fights going on, but how do I synchronize air power? How do I synchronize naval support? Where do my long-range fires go? All of those assets belong to somebody who has to redirect those based on success. You want to reinforce success. It's not happening here. These are independent fights that are going on right now.
So is there someone you think and we just don't know, or you think it seems like there is no one?
Well, I would say, but I've had my own filter. My own filter is, of course, there's some big guy in charge. I mean, there's got to be. But when you look at that, it defies logic. And you go back to this question, is there command and control? Or did they just say, go get these targets in these specific areas because they didn't anticipate this level of resistance? They thought it was going to be an easier fight. And they probably went in cheap in terms of the command and control. That's a bad decision.
If there's someone in charge, maybe they need to do a better job, right, as we're looking at this. Can we talk about the different dynamics between, say, a Kyiv and a Mariupol? Mariupol right now, encircled, they have not surrendered, they have defied Russian calls to surrender, and yet this is a very harrowing situation here. Is Kyiv different?
Yeah, the difference is you just look at the geography. With Mariupol, obviously, you've got naval forces from the Russians that can control all of that, and there are limited access of retreat for the civilians. So the support activity, the military activity, is to the attacker's advantage here. And that's why the Russians have enjoyed great success in Mariupol. It's also a much smaller objective. Then you go to Kyiv, and all the fighting in Kyiv is located here. So that's where the Russians are trying to bang away at the city. And over here in Kharkiv, they've had limited success. In fact, the Ukrainians, as we just said, have just taken it back. But you have all of this where Ukrainians can either depart or can provide reinforcement. That's the significant difference between both of these.
Right now, we're watching the Russians increasingly use what's called dumb munitions versus smart munitions. Tell us about this.
Yeah, dumb munitions are what we call artillery and rockets. They're aimed in a general direction, certain azimuth, certain range, and they go hit what they hit. And we've seen an increase in terms of precision munitions, I think, for one reason. One, the Russians want to make sure that the world knows that they have this capability. With the hypersonics in particular, we don't have it. They do. Watch us, we just use this thing. But we're going to see an increase in terms of the dumb weapons because they don't have to waste the precision munitions to go after fixed targets. We use precision munitions to go after very precise, very unique targets, and often mobile targets, because we can guide those things in, and we have very good tactical intelligence. When the US and our partners go to war, we have intelligence on the ground that's providing sighting and recognition, and we can then guide those munitions in. And we can do that against mobile targets. Russians have demonstrated they have zero ability to do that. So they're just going to lob all these stupid weapon systems and hope they hit hospitals and hope they hit buildings. I mean, it's absolutely brutal. It's tragic. It's a war crime when you're going after those kind of targets.
They don't have, it appears, people on the ground calling in coordinates. We've all seen movies, right? That's what someone's on the ground calling in coordinates. That would be a precision-guided munition.
Exactly. You're marking a target. You're talking to some munition system, and you're saying, deliver on this specific 10-digit coordinate. That level of detail can go after that vehicle, and they may be 20 meters apart. It's that level of precision that we can achieve. The Russians are inept. They have demonstrated they cannot do that. So they resort to dumb weapon systems and brutal kind of carpet bombing type tactics.
Yeah, we're seeing the effect of that in the areas clearly where there are only civilian targets, right? That's also what we're seeing. Sir, thank you so much for walking us through that. Appreciate it.